Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. I apologize for not posting for a few days. I have been really busy reorganizing my apartment, and it's amazing how much junk you accumulate over the years. So a lot of it was spent throwing things away, and it's a very liberating experience, and I recommend it highly. Okay, so this is baby oil. Now, before starting this printing session, I highly recommend oiling the plate, especially if you print a lot like I do. I have had some comments from some viewers who complain that their first layer doesn't transfer. So I made a reply, and I replied that maybe your plate needs to be oiled and cleaned and oiled. And this way, after it's oiled, your acrylic will transfer much more quickly. So I'm using a synthetic brush just to spread the oil more evenly. I think the brush does a better job than my hand. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for about half an hour, and then I will wipe away the excess. Okay, I have lined my 18 by 24 Gelli plate with a piece of tissue paper. So this is the back of the plate, and I'm going to do a sketch. Now, today's inspiration piece is another very famous still life by Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, and I'm going to quote from Wikipedia. Vincent van Gogh, 1853 to 1890. He was a Dutch post-impressionist painter who is among the most famous and influential figures in the history of Western art. In just over a decade, he created approximately 2,100 artworks, including around 860 oil paintings, most of them in the last 2 years of his life. His works include landscapes, still lifes, portraits, and self-portraits, most of which are characterized by bold colors and dramatic brushwork that contributed to the rise of Expressionism in modern art. Now, this image that you see on your screen is his very famous sunflowers. Now, I didn't realize that the sunflower paintings were a series, and he did these for his good friend Paul Gauguin for the purpose of decorating Gauguin's bedroom. So he painted a whole series of these sunflowers, and I thought that was a very beautiful gesture of friendship. So here is the inspiration piece, and I am going to reinterpret that as a monoprint. So stay with me and let's get rolling. Okay, again, this is my go-to acrylic paint. This is Acrylic Mars Black. Now, you don't have to use this brand. You can use any brand you like, because everybody has their own favorite brands. And I'm putting some of it in a tub, and I'm not going to dilute this. I'm just using it straight out of the bottle. So I will start with now. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to mimic, as in the previous video, I tried to mimic the effect of a lino cut. So I'm using a Q-tip and I am removing I'm actually removing the paint. Okay. So I'm going to be using a lot of Q-tips. And the trick here is to work on the acrylic while it's still wet. And that's why I'm doing this in increments, in installments. So what I'm doing is just leaving out the outline of the petal. And I am changing Q-tip as I need. So once it gets saturated, it doesn't pick up the paint anymore. Okay. I'm going to be using a lot of Q-tips. Okay, I want to finish this petal. So you get the idea. I'm painting the petals, and before the petal dries, I use the Q-tip and take out some of the excess paint. Oop. Yeah. So I'm leaving just enough to create an outline and not take away too much. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going with the flowers and then maybe add some leaves, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, now I'm going to work on the vase, flower vase. Now I have to decide where the light is coming from. I'm going to have the light come this way, so the shadow of the vase is here. Meaning there will be more dark areas here. Okay. And the key here is to work on this while it's still wet. Okay. Then I will do the horizon line, which is the table. going to put a shadow here. Just going to define the edge of the table. These are just background fillers. Okay. So there is my flower vase with sunflowers. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, not too much, maybe for like 10-15 minutes. And I will put on a second layer. I'm still deciding to leave this black and white or add color. I'll figure that out. Okay, I decided I want to use the pickup color as just one color. I'm going to mix. This is raw sienna. Now this comes across as yellow when it's applied very thinly. So I'm going to put some in my tub. And add matte medium. And then I'm going to add some titanium white just to raise the value a little bit. Okay, so the result is a very pretty, kind of a beige color, or like a camel color. So I'm going to use a wider brayer, say 3-inch. In fact, I'm going to use my new brayers. This is brand new. Got this from Amazon. I've forgotten what a new brayer looks like because all my brayers are so dirty. I'm just going to carefully lay the color . I have to be careful not to make this smear too much. Now there will be a bit of smearing that can't be helped. Let me do the upper part first. trying to make the second layer as thin and as even as I can, because when the paint is on too thick, it won't transfer. Okay. I'm using my favorite Richardson watercolor paper. This is 22 by 30 and it is 135 pound. It is cold press. And I really cannot emphasize enough. To make good art, you need good paper. The paper is just as important as the paint. Now, it's okay to use inferior paper for practice. That's what you should do. But once you feel confident enough to make something good, use the best paper you can find or you can afford, and it's all worth it. So I'm applying a very firm pressure with my hand, and I'm hoping this will work. Now, while this is setting or drying, I'm going to feature some wonderful submissions, especially one from my friend in the Ukraine, Olina, and some other friends from Europe. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that intermission. I am so very proud of our viewers. I'm proud of their determination and their talent, and they just keep rolling. So anyway, this has dried beautifully, and let me show you a close-up. You can see the marks of the petals, and it's amazing what kind of detail you can make with Q-tips. Now you can find some other tools to make interesting marks, maybe like a silicone brush or a spatula. I encourage you to try different effects. And I'm glad I decided not to include different colors. I think it's a stronger statement just to use one color, so you can just focus on the graphic nature of the black paint. Now it's sort of like a woodcut or a lino cut, but this is a monoprint. There you go. I really had a lot of fun doing this, and this is my humble tribute to one of the most brilliant and tragic artists of the 20th century. My humble homage to Vincent van Gogh and his sunflowers. So thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Thank you all you wonderful viewers, and your submissions, I think they are fantastic. And I encourage you to just keep going, keep doing, because the greatest antidote to the despair of our times is making art and not giving up. So please pay a visit to artwhisper88.com, which is my storefront, and any sales or donations will help to keep this channel going. So thank you once more, and I hope to see you next time.